The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hey guys, this is Matt Seidel, and you're listening to Keepin' It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out in Barrio the Frost. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Style. Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review Shingo's 20th anniversary show, the first 2 nights of the Road to Destruction tour, and cover all its news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP tier subscribers. If you want access to the weekly live stream, ad-free audio, and bonus content, subscribe at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. And speaking of live streams, you're going to definitely want to make sure you subscribe to the Social Suplex YouTube channel. At the end of this month, we are planning a big live stream event with multiple hosts from the Social Suplex Podcast Network to announce some big news that we got coming out.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it for that.
It's all good. We'll have hopefully a bunch of people on there. I'll represent KISS if you can't make it.
Ethan Saber Jr. says thoughts on the Baker Mayfield masterclass. Who is he a fighter?
He's a football player.
Then why are you asking us that question? Why would I know anything about Baker Mayfield if he doesn't get in a cage or a ring and punch somebody? I don't know anything about this man.
Yeah, even though I'm like in 2 fantasy football leagues right now, I know nothing about football. I just do it trying to win and make people mad who are football fans that the pro wrestling fan is beating them in fantasy football.
Do you ever win at fantasy?
I have a couple years I've won.
Like the league?
Yeah.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, the people get mad.
Baker Mayfield plays for the Bucks, it looks like.
He does? I thought he was.
So, I guess he's us, one of our guys. I don't know.
Maybe it's not. I thought he was like the Browns or Bears, something like that. I
don't know, bro. You got to ask One Nation Radio. That's where you need to be asking that question.
Right. You want the sports talk. You know, you want the Caitlin Clark. You know, WNBA. You go to One Nation Radio.
Jeremy, you went. You're muted. Yeah, so it looks like we're having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with.
You back?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you now. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Usually it's me who's having the technical issues, and it's been you tonight. So
yeah, really weird. But I was saying if people want the Caitlin Clark, if they want the football talk, the sports talk, you go to One Nation Radio.
So what do we have coming up on? You said that when is this big announcement taking place? I'll see if I can pencil it into my schedule.
So we haven't finalized a date and time yet, but I think we are shooting for Friday, September 27th.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is some pretty cool stuff coming down the pike. So definitely, keep your eyes peeled and your ears open because big announcements coming for the entirety of Social Suplex. So we're very excited about that. You want to just jump into this fucking week of wrestling?
Yeah, we had a lot of New Japan shows to cover this past weekend. So yeah, we'll jump right into it. So first up, we had Shingo Takagi's 20th debut anniversary event. This happened Saturday, September 7th in Yamanashi. Had an attendance of 1,678. And so for this show and for the other two Road 2, I think we'll just kind of breeze our way through the undercard, kind of point out any storyline elements. We won't give the full, hold by hold here, because not a whole ton happened on this undercard, just kind of progressing storyline stuff.
One thing I will say that I liked about this show in general, because there's not a lot of positives about this show, to be honest, but I liked the lighting because they held the event in one of those large open air gymnasium halls, whatever you want to call them. And usually they just keep the house lights on and you could just see everything. And it's, not the greatest atmosphere, like from ambiance standpoint, but on this night they had like house lights that, or I don't know what you call them, but like basically like accent lights, like purple or blue on one side and then like pink on the other side. And it just kind of created a different vibe and feeling throughout the show. And I was like, man, if they're going to run buildings like this, if they can light it in a way that's like kind of palatable, it makes the show seem better.
Yeah, even though it was your kind of traditional Road 2 kind of standard house show style, yeah, the lighting, the arena setup, yeah, this definitely made it look like a bigger deal.
Yeah, which was nice for Shingo's 20th.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could jump into this.
So yeah, show opened up. We had Daiki Nagai and Masatora Yasuda going to a 10-minute time limit draw. So those are the two newest young lions. We've seen them for a little bit now. And so, of course, as young lions do, they had another 10-minute time limit draw.
Yeah, we'd see them a couple times on this tour. So I don't really need to belabor the point, but I'm still very impressed with both of these guys and happy to see the progress that they're making against one another and sort of exactly what you'd expect. Somebody gets a big drop kick spot. They go to the time limit, fighting spirit, a lot of chain grappling in the beginning. Usually somebody ends up in a submission down the stretch and almost gets tapped out. You're kind of, paying attention to who's getting the upper hand in these outings, but by and large they go to a draw. So it's exactly what you would expect from these guys. But from a technical standpoint, I mean, I think they're very impressive so far. So
yeah, I mean, I think that they are really ahead of Shomakato and the other
Murashima.
Murashima. I think they're ahead of those guys, but when it comes to
so too.
The grappling, like they're doing some stuff that there are a lot of what's that? The armbar, the hoverboard. What's the technical term for it?
The Kimura.
Kimura, yeah.
Key
yeah, so there's a lot of stuff like that. They're doing a little bit more advanced, like submission and grappling that we've seen from Murashima and Kato.
Yeah, even just small things like, obviously, like, I get in the ring here and there. And when I do like a snapmare, I mean, it's kind of shitty. I'm just like, but these guys, what I liked what he did was like, he literally, I don't remember which did it, so I can't, I'm not at the point where I can tell them apart. I know one of them has like Hispanic ancestry. So
yeah,
he's like kind of
Yasuda. I think his mom is Mexican and dad Japanese.
Okay. So he's got, kind of a mixed ancestry there, but I don't remember which of the two guys did this, but I noticed that like he put him in a cravat and then extended it and then fucking did the the snapmare and just small things like that, like just the emphasis that they're putting on things and the selling, like there's a lot of really small nuanced stuff that they're doing that's very effective.
Yeah. So yeah, guys look good here. 10-minute time limit draw. Then we went to Callum Newman and Francesco Akira defeating Rita and Shomakato. So Rita coming in from Dragon Gate as a part of celebrating Shingo's 20th anniversary. So yeah, fun little matchup here. Akira picked up the win with the fireball on Shomakato. So since Akira's been back from the injury, they've really been heating him up. He's picked up a lot of wins on the undercards on the last couple of tours. So it seems like they're heating him up for something.
Yeah, and he shaved the beard and skin's looking a little bit clearer. Looks like he's getting ready to go on a run of some sort. I was interested to see Rita here because he's sort of the unknown component of this match. We never seen him before, and I thought he had a good showing for himself. A smaller guy, especially, compared to like, say, Callum Newman, like there's a height disparity there.
Yeah, they were so short. They had the beginning of the match, they did the face off, and Newman was just like tower. It's like you on the Florida Indies. Like Newman was just towering over these guys. Newman had new gear as well, some new like little shorts and a new vest.
Yeah, which is, I guess fine because people complained about, the Will Ospreayization of Callum Newman, but at the same time, it looked like not Top Guy gear. So I was like, we're going backwards, or maybe this is his house show gear. I don't know. I wasn't really feeling it too much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it wasn't it was fine. It was shiny, but yeah, I even though people complain about the Ospreay tights, I prefer the long Ospreay looking tights. But
Sho Makato was the one that ate the pinfall here, which was interesting, seeing as though they brought in a Dragon Gate Young Lion, and the last time we had someone from Dragon Gate, work in New Japan, they did nothing but job the entire Super Junior. So interesting that they gave the preference to Rita there, but pretty good outing.
Yeah. Then following that, we had the Never Openweight champion HENARE and the TV champ Jeff Cobb defeating Katsuya Murashima and Ryusuke Taguchi in 9 minutes and 1 second. So essentially, it's a little warm up here for HENARE and Cobb as they were prepared for title matches in the coming days.
This was like when Hulk Hogan decided that his War Games team should be him, Macho Man Randy Savage, Sting, and Lex Luger to take on the what was her name? The not the Legion of Doom, but the Dungeon of Doom.
Yeah.
Which was like, that's the most overpowered team ever. And like, you're going to put together like Cobb and HENARE as champions taking on a Young Lion and Taguchi. Like, this is not fair whatsoever.
Well, yeah, didn't last too long. It's 9 minutes, and United Empire here, of course, they get the win over the Young Lion here after the native knee. So Yui gets the win there. And then we go on to House of Torture. Ren Narita and Sho defeating Jado and Shota Umino. And we had a question here from Death Triangle 720 with Shota in the backstage comments speaking about its win against Zack. Do you think the eventual title match against Zack will cause a change in Shota's character?
That's an interesting question. I mean, there's a lot of like kind of interconnected, interplaying parts right now with this whole thing. If you're focusing just on Shota Umino, because like he's kind of starting to form this team with ELP, which is thereby like forming a bond between him and Jado and the rest of like Hantai. And he's still kind of feuding with House of Torture, but it's like this sort of nebulous thing going on. Then, off to the side, you've got the world title picture, which is also kind of log jammed a little bit because Naito has two, contenders going against him in Okan and Zack Sabre Jr. And we don't really know how that is all going to play out. And if you're trying to examine Shota Umino and what's going on in his story in the light of what's going to happen with Zack, there's a lot of moving parts there on all sides to kind of get to the point where there is some sort of confrontation or some sort of reconciliation of some reckoning of him having beaten Zack Sabre in the tournament. I mean, are we assuming that Zack is going to win the title and then that's where we're headed? Or, if Zack doesn't win, how does that play out? What's the deal there? I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot going on with Umino, and Charlton mentioned on commentary this weekend that he officially invited Jado to be a part of Hantai because Jado had mainly just kind of been loyal to the Tongans and GOD. So, yeah, it seems like there's definitely some storyline elements where he's bringing Jado in, he's trying to bring ELP in, he's trying to chase Zack, he's still fighting House of Torture and trying to help Tanahashi, rid the evil from New Japan. So yeah, there's a lot going on for him right now.
Yeah, and I'm not particularly too interested in any of it, to be honest with you right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally been feuding with House of Torture the whole year.
Right. Nothing that's going on right now like tickles my fancy. And I mean, what would the outcome be? Let's just play devil's advocate for a moment. Zack wins the title, right? And somewhere down the line, probably assuming it's somewhere in the near future, either in the fourth quarter of 2024 or early on in 2025, we wind up with Shota Umino versus Zach in a title situation. What does that look like? You know, are we just going to paint Shota Umino as like this up and coming plucky future ace title challenger who's, you know, fiery in defeat and loses again? Or are we doing a character shift and a character change or even heel turn of some sort? Like what are we hoping for? What's the outcome there? And I think it takes a lot of things to happen to even get to that point. Like I personally have no interest in seeing that match right now, even with like Shota Umino having recently beat Zack Sabre Jr. Like they just don't even feel like they're on the same plane at all.
Yeah, and if they do have the match, like he's not going to win.
Unless he did, but they'd have to do something drastic if that were the case.
Yeah, which I don't know if they're going to pull it off in that short amount of time. So if they wrestled like Zach's winning and he's just going to be kind of stuck where he's been stuck at. He'll probably have a great match with Zach again and then lose and then face Ren Narita for the 100th time.
Right.
So, but yeah, we'll see what's the game plan for Umino going down into the fall here. But following that, we had the Mad Bastards of Gabe Kidd and Jake Lee defeating Hanma and Tomohiro Ishii. So again, trying to really establish the Mad Bastards as a tag team here, picking up some wins over the weekend.
These two teams ended up facing each other on every single show throughout the entirety of the weekend going into today's earlier show. This was the weakest of the three matches that they had with one another, but it's even the first one sort of exceeded my expectations because, I'll just tell you the truth. I thought that by and large, the Shingo retirement or anniversary show was pretty disappointing in terms of like output and quality matches. And this one wasn't like, I'm not saying go out of your way and catch it, but like considering who was in it, I thought the match was better than expected. And then every night, the feud kind of continued to escalate and these guys got more reps and comfortable with one another. And then I think they've sort of unlocked a little, like we knew this during the G1, during the undercard tag matches, that there was sort of this gel that was happening between Gabe Kidd and Jake Lee, but it's sort of even prospered more since, post G1. And I don't know, they've like unlocked the key to like kind of making Jake Lee interesting. And that's just pairing him up with Gabe Kidd. And for whatever reason, it just kind of works. And then him and Ishii, surprisingly enough, like you would think that with Ishii on the precipice of challenging, freaking Gabe Kidd for his title, that they would be the two guys that were, nose to nose and just kind of feuding the entire time. But instead it sort of kind of became like Jake Lee versus Tomohiro Ishii all throughout these matches. And this feud just kind of, for a little mini feud on the weekend, this was the most entertaining and consistently good outing that took place throughout all three shows.
Yeah, I mean, Ishii and Gabe Kidd, all we know, they have great chemistry. But yeah, even Ishii mixing it up with Jake Lee and, when they get the Korakuen, there was some great chemistry there, brawling throughout the crowd. And yeah, I think Jake Lee looked really good in a tag team. And, we say all the time, some guys are just tag team wrestlers. Maybe this is a key. You need to put Jake Lee in a tag team and you put him with somebody interesting like Gabe Kidd, and it works out. And, a lot of the double team offense was really good. Towards the end here, Gabe Kidd, he's doing, his version of the Busaiko knee, which he calls the O-knee, because he has this, the Oni monster tattooed on his knee. So he pulls the knee pad down, reveals the Oni monster, and then does the Oni knee attack to his opponent. So he did that, got the win over Hanma here.
I'm not really a tattoo guy myself. I don't have any. I've never really desired to have any. And if there's a really high quality tattoo that's really cool or something that's creative or whatever, I'll be admire. I don't know what the word is, but I'll admire it. I'll think it looks nice and all that sort of stuff. But I've never been like, damn, I really want a tattoo. But that fucking knee tattoo, man, that shit's pretty cool. Like
Yeah, it's cool looking. Yeah, again, same here. I've never been one to really want a tattoo. Like, there's nothing I love that much that I want permanently inked on my skin forever. But yeah, I will admire other people's and check out the artwork. And yeah, that looks really, really dope, especially playing into his whole finisher thing now. So that's cool.
I'm like, fuck, do I need a knee tattoo so I can knee someone in the face with it? Like, no, sick.
Just put bow knee on your tattooed on your knee.
That'd be tight.
So following that, we had Doki and Taka from Just Five Guys defeating the Bullet Club team of Gato and Taiji Ishimori. So this was a preview for the upcoming junior title match with Doki defending against Ishimori on a Wednesday.
I'm sure that match is probably going to be very good and all that, but nothing about these preview matches between these two guys, and more specifically their handlers, I should say, their partners that are with them in Taka and Geto and all that. Like, it's just not working with me. I felt like this was consistently very often some of the worst matches of, aside from, well, that, and I guess we'll get to it here in a moment, but these House of Torture versus Hantai matches, the 10-man tags have been the shits as well. But the only one that worked for me was the one that was really short earlier today that was like 3 minutes or whatever. But most of the matches I've just been like, I don't know, man. Like, something about Doki versus Taka is just not doing it for me here.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I feel like Taka has been working pretty hard. Like, I feel like the hardest working guy out of all four.
Yeah, and think about how crazy that is when he's teaming with Doki.
Yeah. So yeah, Doki puts on the Italian stretch, Doki Choki on Gato to get the submission victory here. So then after that, we had the House of Torture team of Dick Togo, Evil, Kanemaru, and Yujiro defeating Tanahashi, Yano, Bolton Oleg, and Tiger Mask in 9 minutes and 43 seconds.
Yeah, I haven't been in love with this pairing whatsoever. They've kind of just made Tiger Mask their bitch every single night, the entirety of the tour. And it's a House of Torture tag match. It's attacking before the bell, all the weapons and run-ins and ref bumps, all the shit that you'd expect. It's there.
Yeah. And towards the end of the match here, Tiger Mask was in control, but then they sprayed Kanemaru sprayed the whiskey in Tiger Mask's eyes, rolled him up 1, 2, 3. So House of Torture, they get the win, and post-match they grab the Never title. So, there's a Never 6-man defense coming up next Saturday, September 14th. So that's what a preview of this match was for, and House of Torture getting a lot of momentum going into that title match. Then we had the TMDK team of Kosei Vegeta and Zack Sabre Jr. defeating the United Empire team of Great Okan and JAY Jacob Austin Young, making his Japan debut for New Japan and debut for United Empire. Jacob Austin Young, he was on New Japan Strong, back on the weekly Strong days, and apparently he's forged some kind of relationship with TJP, which made the connection here for him to be a part of United Empire.
Yeah, I feel like on the evening for notable happenings, Jacob Austin Young, his debut, his televised like proper New Japan debut was pretty impressive, and one of the more notable things that happened on the night. There was a one small bit of small miscommunication at one point in the match between him and Fujita, but by and large, I thought he looked really impressive. A lot of snap, flash, and just smoothness to a lot of the work that he has going on. Kind of reminds me in some ways like Drew Gulak. Even though Drew Gulak's like canceled.
Yes, I mean the wrestling ability.
Yeah. The way he wrestles kind of reminds me of him a bit there. So, that's high praise to a certain extent. And then, this was interesting just because we got Zach in there and Great Okan and the two guys that are gunning for the title. And, they were in the same block in the G1. And so they had, was it just one or they had two matches against one another?
Yeah, I think it was two.
Yeah. So, or no, I don't think so. No, they just had the one match.
Okay.
That's right. Because Shingo beat, Okan in the
That's right. Yeah.
Eliminator.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had the one match there, and two guys that are not unfamiliar with one another, but their work was good. This was to me easily the best match of the night, honestly.
Yeah, and they did tease with Zach and Okan and Okan's challenging Naito that Okan could be the one to defend against Zach, so that's kind of what they were building up here. Also, good to see Fujita back on the tour here. He had that injury during the G1 tour towards the middle of the tour and had to miss the conclusion of that tour. But now he seems to be back and fine. So yeah, him and JAY mixed it up, look pretty good here. So yeah, fun match, good way to get Jacob Austin Young in the mix here. And we had a question from Def Triangle 720. Do you see TJP and Jacob being the team for Super Junior Tag? Akira seems like he's more focused on being a singles guy, and he should be going after the junior title soon.
Possibly. I mean, it depends on if they want to spend the money to bring him back in for another tour, but I think it's definitely a potential possibility.
Yeah, we'll have to see what they're going to do. I mean, with TJP trying to be more heavyweight and more the leader, they could switch and do Jacob Austin Young and Akira as a junior tag team, or maybe you just stick with Catch 2-2. They are such a great team. And you bring Jacob Austin Young back later. So lots of options there, but I mean, I think any combo of those three would be great for Junior Tag League. So then we move on to the main event, the big main event here to celebrate Shingo's anniversary. We had the team of Bushi and Shingo Takagi teaming up with Yamato to face Hiromu, Tetsuya Naito, and Yota Tsuji, and they wrestled to a 30-minute time limit draw.
Yeah, this is the second time in recent history where there's been an LIJ 6-man tag that's gone to the time limit draw. Different pairings this time, but thematically kind of the same thing. I thought that the work in this match, and I kind of had some criticisms of the other match as well. Maybe I'm not that high on LIJ interfaction matches as other people are, but even though I had some criticisms about the previous match, I thought that this was the weaker of the two. One of the disappointing aspects for me was they brought in Yamato, who's, he's not Yamato of years past, but we only saw so much of him in here, and it was very limited, very little. So I don't know what the deal was with that. You would sort of expect when you bring in like a star from the outside in a main event spot that there'd be a little bit more shine, and maybe, I don't know, maybe he's working hurt or something, but they just didn't work him into the mix that well as often as you would have liked. The shining moments of this match to me were mostly down to Shingo and Naito, and that was a big story and focus of the match. The close of the match got really intense and built up and was really, really good. It's just those other 24 minutes where the work was fine. It wasn't bad, but it also wasn't like, I don't know, I wasn't captivated or anything, especially considering the stage, the main event, and everything like that. I'm not even complaining they went to a draw, although this would be the second main event draw that we'd get on the weekend. So there's that as well. But, this one just didn't totally work for me, honestly.
Yeah. It seemed like also the big focus was Shingo here. There's a long heat segment on Shingo where, he had to kind of rally back and make the comeback. But yeah, we didn't get much Yamato. And it was, really around, getting Shingo in there. Shingo, Naito. There's a few double team spots with Shingo and Yamato. Then also Shingo and Tsuji had some segment as well. So definitely really revolving around Shingo also, which is his anniversary. But yeah, I would have liked to see Yamato get more in the mix and for them to kind of step it up just a little bit more. I mean, it's kind of like your standard like LIJ house show main event, which is fine. But with it being Shingo's anniversary, and Shingo's gear was awesome. It's some of his best gear ever. Just to kind of have a fun house show match. I kind of wanted a little bit more, but it's what it is. It had the time limit draw. Shingo hit a huge pumping bomber on Naito towards the end and was in the middle of pinning him. And so the time went out before the 3 count. So they're kind of teasing that Shingo could have pinned Naito had there been just one more second on the clock. And post-match, he grabbed the title. And so it seems like Shingo is once again kind of angling for another title match. And we had a question from Death Triangle 720. With Shingo calling out Naito for a title match, could it put Zack's title shot in jeopardy, or could they have Zack win regardless?
You know, there's a few things that happened, and we'll get to it, but a few things that happened on this weekend of shows where the results kind of left me a little puzzled about the creative direction of New Japan moving forward. And you kind of do have to wonder, like, what's the plan for Wrestle Kingdom, and more importantly, like, what's the plan for Naito? Because for better or for worse, everything that happens in this company when it comes to Wrestle Kingdom is contingent on the way they're going to slot Tetsuya Naito. And I do think that hypothetically there is a potential where him and Shingo Takagi could main event Wrestle Kingdom. And that would put Zack's chances of winning the title in jeopardy. And if a few weeks ago, I brought up the point that this company has not run any singles match in the Tokyo Dome as the main event with two unproven, headliners since 1995. There's always at least one person in there that's headlined. In this case, they got Shingo and Naito, who are both proven headline draws to a certain extent. If they want to go the safest possible route and to do a big time matchup that's never been done in the Tokyo Dome, that is one route they could hypothetically go.
Yeah, it's definitely an option there. And I know people really love the Shingo Naito matchup. I love that. I think it's a great matchup as well. They had a great match in the G1. So yeah, I think there's definitely a story there, as it seems like they're continuing a lot of LIJ versus LIJ focus towards the end of the year and going into Tokyo Dome season. I think, yeah, if you want a big dome main event, two top players, yeah, you pull Naito and Shingo. How's Zack in the mix there? I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
you could have Zack win, and then Shingo takes it from Zack before the dome, and then Naito sneaks his way in there. That's kind of probably the dirty way to do it. A little more complicated.
Messy.
Yeah, it's a complicated way to do it. Or Zack loses, and yeah, you go on and you do Naito and Shingo challenging Naito. But
well, one thing I wonder when Death Triangle 720 asked this question, because I have to imagine it was likely like last night prior to the results of today's main event, which also involve the creative direction for Shingo. So we kind of have to take that into account as well. So I don't know, and sometimes people like put their intentions out there that they plan to challenge a champion, and then that champion loses the title, and then it just never comes to fruition. That does happen in this company. There's a lot of latitude for people to go out there and say whatever they want to say. When it, same thing with when we were talking earlier about Shota Umino and him bringing up Zack, that might be a little bit of him shooting off the cuff, trying to work a little bit of an angled, kind of seeing the tea leaves and thinking well, if Zack gets the title, then maybe there's, blah, blah, blah. And guys do that. But it doesn't mean that that's the creative direction that the booking committee actually intends to go with.
Right. And I feel like, that was kind of like the right thing for Shingo to do it in that end of that match. It's like, you almost pin the champ. Yeah, you grab the belt, you kind of tease something. So I think that was just the most natural thing to do, but that could have just been.
And he beat Naito.
Yeah, in the G1, yeah.
In the G1. So why wouldn't he be angling for a title shot? He beat him clean on the first night.
Yeah. So I think it made a ton of sense for him to do that. But yeah, based off what we saw on today's Korakuen, it seems like he's going to have a little detour before he even gets another title shot at Naito.
And honestly, Jeremy, I feel like with the first night here, this little mini review, we've pretty much touched most of the story points for most of the night. So we can kind of really breeze through the remainder of the undercards for both of these evenings, I would assume.
Yeah, so let's jump over to Road to Destruction. So this was technically night 2, but the first televised night. Night 1 was a house show. So night 2 of the tour, Sunday, September 8th from Korakuen Hall. We had Daiki Nagai and Masatora Yosada opening again 10-minute time limit draw. So nothing new there. Then we had Callum Newman, Great Khan, and Jacob Austin Young defeating Murashima, Kato, and Tiger Mask. So Jacob Austin Young getting a win in his first Korakuen Hall show here, and they were previewing him. I think he was taking on Shoma Kato the following night.
Sliced bread, baby.
Yeah. Then we had House of Torture, Narita and Kanemaru defeating Jado and Shota Umino. Pretty much cut and paste from the first night. A lot of shenanigans, cheating to beat Jado. That's how much cheating we have to do, that we have to cheat to beat Jado. So they hit him with the wrench. They put him in a leg lock. He tapped out. So Sho getting a lot of wins here. So it seems like they're heating Sho up or something.
And that's another thing too. Narita, kind of knowing where the we'll talk about his creative direction later at the end of this show, but kind of having him have been mixed up with Shota Umino for a prolonged period in these tag matches and everything. It just kind of, we'll get to it, but what they decided to do with him by the end of the night kind of, to me, came out of left field.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's kind of weird. So then following that, we had Mad Bastards, Gabe Kidd, and Jake Lee defeating Hanma and Ishii, 6 minutes 58 seconds. So again, kind of like we were talking about, nice little mini feud here throughout the weekend. And again, really trying to really establish Gabe Kidd and Jake Lee's a team, and also building up Gabe Kidd and Ishii. It seems like Ishii's going to challenge for a strong title, and they are brawling all throughout Korakuen, bashing heads against the west and east signs and all that jazz. But at the end, it was Hanma once again getting pinned. This time, Jake Lee hit the face break on him and a brainbuster and got the win.
Hanma is like the king of the mini undercard feud. Like, he has these little feuds on tours that don't go anywhere and they don't amount to anything, but they're highly entertaining and they exceed your expectations. Like, he's the king of that shit.
Yeah, I mean, he's a perfect guy that's like, maximize your minutes. He's like, I'm stuck in, a repetitive undercard tag. I'm going to make it spicy. I'm going to make it interesting. So yeah, it's been fun to watch. And then following that, we had Dick Togo, Evil, Sho, and Yujiro defeating Tanahashi, Yano, Bolton, and Taguchi. And again, pretty much the same from the previous night. Lots of shenanigans, and they shoved the pimp cane up Taguchi's butt, and then rolled him up to get the win. So, great build for the Never six-man titles. Then we had the Bull Club team of Gato and Ishimori defeating Doki and Taka. So again, previewing the junior tag. This time it was Gato and Ishimori getting the win. Ishimori doing the bone lock on Taka to get the win here. Then we had Vegeta and Zack Sabre Jr. defeating Bushi and Tetsuya Naito. So this is previewing the King of Pro Wrestling, Zack and Naito matchup. So fun little tag match there.
Yeah, I thought the interactions between Zack and Naito were pretty good. And I mean, that's no surprise considering their history with one another. I am looking forward to that match, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another great matchup. I think people, really slept on the G1 match, and yeah, I think it's a great guy for Naito to face. Then we move on to the semi-main event. We had Hiromu Takahashi and Shingo Takagi defeating Francesco Akira and HENARE in 11 minutes and 1 second. So this was the preview for the Never title match that happened today with Hiromu and HENARE. So a lot of great interactions between them in this match.
Yeah, I thought everybody in this match worked really well. I mean, Francesco Akira is like someone that anytime he's in one of these tag matches, like he goes above and beyond. And him and Shingo, this brought back all the bully Shingo Jr. run sort of Power Junior shit, which was really awesome. Yeah, all four guys, they put in a really good effort. I thought that this was the best tag match of the undercard.
Yeah, really good stuff. Shingo hitting the Made in Japan on Akira to get the win here. And then he had some post-match jaw-jacking between HENARE and Hiromu. So, yeah, really fun stuff here. And then that took us to the main event. We had a 15-minute time limit draw as Jeff Cobb defended the NJPW World TV title against the Gene Blast Yota Tsuji.
Yeah, so this match, I wasn't quite expecting it to go the full 15 minutes. But in hindsight, that wasn't necessarily the worst way to go, because when we were doing the preview last week, we were like, it's an interesting situation because Cobb has never beaten Tsuji up to this point. Like, he's lost both of their singles matches from earlier in the year, and the most recent one was just, a month or two ago during the G1. So, like, from a championship standpoint, like, if he loses that third match in a row, like, he's just kind of sunned by Tsuji at that point. At the same time, Tsuji has time and again come up short when it comes to the big title match opportunity. And I think our reasoning for predicting for him to win was just, there's this youth movement. They need to kind of solidify some of these guys going into the dome. It seems like now is the perfect time to maybe go that way. But I wasn't 100% certain that they would go that way just because of the Jeff Cobb having lost multiple times thing. And so they just split the difference and they went to the draw, which I hadn't even thought about that potential. And that's the way they went.
Yeah, it's definitely a good option for like not beating Tsuji and also keeping the belt on Cobb. And yeah, I had a feeling in the preview, like I felt like they weren't going to put the belt on Tsuji, and especially like it's a Road 2 show, and
right.
It didn't feel like the right moment, but I didn't feel like he should have lost either.
That's how I felt too. Like exactly that, where I was like, I guess they'll put it on him because I guess now's the time, but it also doesn't feel like quite the right time just because the stage.
Yeah, like you want him to win the belt on one of the big, monthly shows, not on a Road 2 show. And so, yeah, I think the draw was the I guess the best option to go here. I would really like to see Tsuji winning title at this point now. I think it's time to really get behind him and push him and strap him up and present him more as a main eventer to create another star. But yeah, this was a fun match. They did a lot of cool stuff. Tsuji, again, busting out a lot of his cool lucha stuff. Cobb doing the power stuff. And yeah, I really enjoyed the matchup.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that makes matches between these two guys in particular interesting is how they're probably the two most adept hybrid wrestlers out there. Guys that can do big bruising, brawling, but also high flying and fast athletic style as well. Like, they kind of mix it up to a certain degree. And I do think they work well together. I do feel like this match has been a bit divisive because before I saw the match, I saw really high praise online from those who saw it like immediately. And they're like, you got to go out and catch this. And then, full disclosure, I waited a little bit before I actually saw it earlier today. And I saw some of the scores online and they were like somewhat low. So I was like, and then I started to see negative reactions to it. And I'm kind of somewhere in the middle where, like, I liked this match more than their G1 outing. Makes sense. They got more time, but not quite as much as the New Japan Cup match with their first match, which I still think that's their best outing. One thing I did really love and enjoy was, like, these guys just kind of do cool shit,
Yes, yeah.
And all the like scouting and reversals and stealing of one another's moves down the stretch was really, really awesome. I did think that the way they got to the time limit draw could have been just timed a little bit better in terms of like the drama of it.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with Cobb going for the tour of the islands at the end, and then Tsuji like preparing to counter that with his what's he call his spear?
The Gene Blast.
How could I forget the
Gene Blaster?
Yeah, he was going to hit him with the Gene Blast, and then Cobb got the knee up and countered that. And it was awesome. But one thing I think that they need when it comes to these time limit draws, they need what WCW used to do back in the days, where like they'd be like 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and like 10, 9, and like that like was like, oh shit, someone needs to win right now. And like, they would count it down. But instead in this company and also in AEW, when they do them, they don't do the countdown. They just like ring the bell at the time. And I feel like that countdown is integral. I feel like they should do that.
Yeah, there's been times in New Japan where they would do that, where it's like 1 minute, 30 seconds, and then it rings.
But they need to do the 10-9. They need to count the 10 seconds.
Right. Well, I feel
that's the best way to do it.
They should put a clock on the mat for all these TV title matches. Like the clock should be up there running on screen, and then as you're watching, and then it comes down, it's like, oh crap, like 10, 9, like somebody's got to win. That would definitely add some drama to it. But yeah, the ending was really hot. Tsuji hitting a Frankensteiner running knee and a set out powerbomb for a near fall. He then went to the top. He jumped off. Cobb caught him, did a spin cycle, back suplex. Then Cobb came off the top rope and did the Marlowe crash to Tsuji. So that was pretty crazy seeing Cobb hit that. Then Cobb hit the spear. Then Tsuji got a roll up for a near fall. Cobb hit a big lariat. Then he sidestepped the spear. Cobb put Yota up on his shoulders at the F5000 for a near fall. Then time expired. So really good match. Both guys doing a lot of cool moves, a lot of cool counters, a lot of cool, like you mentioned, stealing each other's moves. So really good stuff here.
The only thing is at the end of the match, they go to the time limit. You think that the way I was feeling about it was like, okay, that New Japan's done this all year, which I haven't been a fan of, where they do the non-definitive title match or singles match between two guys, and then the more definitive rematch the next month or during the same tour, whatever that might be. We've seen multiple instances of that in the booking this year for whatever reason. So I was like, okay, this is just the way they're going. Like Tsuji didn't win. It's still kind of undecided, and they'll have a rematch, and we'll work it out one way or the other. But instead, we wound up with Ren Narita running into the ring and attacking people with the push-up bar and kind of declaring himself as the next challenger, which echoed the sentiments of what he did early in the year when it came to Jon Moxley and the IWGP World Title. But I'm sort of like, all right, so we booked ourselves into a corner. We didn't want anyone to lose, and now we're just going to move on from it. I guess maybe they can always circle back to it in the future, but it just feels weird to have even booked themselves into this corner if this is the way they're going to go about it.
Yeah, like what was even the point of doing this match if the whole direction is Ren Narita challenging next? I guess the good thing for Tsuji, he does have that global title win in his back pocket over, non-title win over the champion Dave Finlay in G1. So maybe you put him in that global title picture moving forward, and also he was a G1 finalist as well. So I think that there's a lot of stuff that you can kind of push Tsuji into moving from this. But it does seem kind of weird that you do this match and then there's not going to be an immediate follow-up unless it's a thing where like Cobb beats Narita, and then after he beats Narita, Tsuji can come out and kind of do the same thing that Narita did here, where he can take out Narita and then challenge Cobb for whenever the next show is. So maybe that is the plan. So we'll see what happens. But I'm not a fan of Narita being the next challenger here.
I'm not even necessarily opposed to Ren Narita being a challenger. He's got a lengthy. My dog's doing something crazy.
Your dog for real. But
my dog likes to live like on the edge. And hold on.
Yeah, but I think what you're getting at is Narita wanting to get the TV title. I mean, he's been chasing the TV title since its inception, and he was in the finals of the inaugural TV tournament against Zach at the Dome. So it also makes sense for him to be challenging and chasing the title from that standpoint.
Exactly. I mean, there's definitely a motivation and a reason for him to be the guy that's going after it. I'm not even opposed to him hypothetically gaining that title, because as awesome as the title has been conceptually, and, facilitated, like what it did for Zach and what it's done for Cobb, it still has never been held by a young guy, which was like the whole emphasis and purpose of the title to begin with. And don't get me wrong, I'm not clamoring for Ren Narita singles matches necessarily, but it might be a good step in the right direction for a guy that seems kind of on the outs when it comes to the Reiwa generation. I just don't like the idea that they booked the Tsuji Cobb thing, they go to a non-finish, and then they move on from it entirely. So it's it's a non, it's a tease.
Yeah. And with
no payoff.
Yeah, with Narita, I think, it could be beneficial to, like you mentioned, to give him that title because you can contain the House of Torture shenanigans into a 15-minute time limit. And so there's not going to be a whole lot of time for them to be, running people in and out and flickering lights and hitting wrenches and garrote wire. So
I disagree. They work a lot of sub 15-minute matches, and they always find a way to get that shit in. So,
we had some questions here. Rainbow says, is the Yota Tsuji versus Jeff Cobb rivalry something you see as a focus point heading into Dome season, or was this a time limit draw, a one and done kind of thing?
I really don't know. And we're at a point right now where typically it's not 100% easy to perceive everything that's going to occur at the Dome, but you could kind of start to see things falling into line. And they've got too many upcoming shows in this portion of the year prior to World Tag League to where there's a lot of unanswered questions and there's a lot of, working parts. So I just really don't know what they're doing with that title or what they're doing with Tsuji heading into the Dome. At this point, it's too early to call.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, they could do a thing of where, Cobb beats Narita and then Tsuji comes out and challenges right again. And then you do the, rematch again and kind of delay it that way.
They've done things like that and they definitely could. I just, I didn't like that there wasn't a little, at least even just a breadcrumb kind of left at the end of the night, even post attack. Like there should have been something to indicate to us that we're getting another chapter somewhere down the line. And for now, they didn't do that. So for now, it's very nebulous.
Yeah. If there's a way to hold off Tsuji beating Cobb at the Dome, that would be cool. A big stage to give him that title. But I don't know. I'd kind of like to see Tsuji mix it up with somebody else. Maybe potentially some kind of bigger star and get him in a big position and not show. So we'll see.
It's not a lot of bigger stars in this company right now.
I know. Death Triangle 720, maybe it was because of All Out yesterday, but I just didn't feel as much with this New Japan show or the main event in general. Should I do a rewatch of the main event?
No.
Yeah, I thought the match was good. I enjoyed it. I definitely understand, if you watch Swerve Hangman, then you immediately put this on. It's definitely quite the jump there, but I don't know. I thought this was a very good match.
I don't know. We'll get to it, but we'll get there, but I liked today's main event more than everything on All Out personally. And that might just be a taste thing more so than anything else. But, let's not write off New Japan just yet.
There's another question. Who do you think would benefit from beating Jeff Cobb at Wrestle Kingdom if he is still champion?
Virtually anybody would benefit if we're just being honest, because they've only had 3 champions. It was Zach, Matt Riddle, and Jeff Cobb, all foreigners as well, by the way. Mm-hmm. So they've never had a domestic talent hold it. They've never had a young guy hold it, and all but 3, and really all but 2 regular roster members have ever held that title. So, I guess the question probably is more accurate to ask who we would like to see win the title, at Wrestle Kingdom from Jeff Cobb. And I wouldn't mind it being Tsuji, but any of these young guys could hypothetically be the one.
Yeah, Tsuji would be cool, but I just feel like at this point he should be a little bit higher than the TV title. Like I think I want to see him like beat Finley for the global title at the Dome.
Well, here's one thing I will say, right? And this is just a kind of a contrast and comparison. One of my issues with AEW in recent years is they've got all these singles men's titles on the undercard. And even though conceptually, in theory, when they were started, they all served different purposes, and you could kind of still point to the international / all Atlantic title that was sort of supposed to have like a defended against people from across the continent sort of element to it. And I guess to a certain extent it does, but not really. Like, if we're being honest, it's pretty much just it's a secondary title. Mm-hmm. And then they have the TNT title, which was sort of supposed to be like a TV title, but not really. It's just another men's secondary singles title. And then they have the Continental Crown, and that is tied to the C2, but when it's not part of the C2, it's just another secondary men's singles title. And there is no designation amongst the champions in AEW as to which of these titles is in a hierarchy of better or worse, or what's their purpose serve. And what they end up serving most of the time is putting the title on top stars that don't want to job or lose, but also can't be seen, going after the world title and losing necessarily. So you usually wrap up some of your top guys with these titles, and they just kind of inhabit their own universe. This goes back to Cody Rhodes and has sort of always been the purpose of these belts to some degree. But at this point, you've got 3 people that it usually, kind of facilitates that. In New Japan, that's not quite the case. Even though New Japan does have a lot of singles men's titles, exactly what the purpose of those titles are, even if it's not like explicitly stated. Like, the white belt is the number 2 belt. Like, that's the one that's one step away from the world title. That is the second best belt out there. The never title is the grimy,
BMF.
It's the BMF title, and everybody knows that. The strong titles, the belt that gets fought over in the US by white guys. And the TV title is the 15-minute time limit. Like, it has a special rule set to it. So I think that, like, when you look at what it did for, like, say, Zack Sabre Jr., I don't think that there's any issue with, even though Tsuji at this point might be beyond that. I mean, the only thing you could really be hoping for him to do that is of a higher caliber, other than win the world title, would be to go after the white belt. And maybe that's what you're getting at, Jeremy, is, without saying it, maybe you want him to go after the white belt, but I don't think that he's necessarily, I'd be fine with him going after the white belt for sure. I also don't think there's anything wrong with him getting that TV title, considering the quality of names of guys that have held the title. Oh, and I forgot, Tanahashi held it. I fucked up. I said no domestic talents have held it. Tanahashi
I forgot. It was so short.
It was so short. Yeah. So you've got Zach, Tana, Matt Riddle, and Jeff Cobb. I mean, technically, those are all really top names. So I really don't think that there's a problem with a guy like Tsuji having that be his first title.
Yeah, I guess, I love Tsuji, so I just want him kind of pushed to the main event as soon as possible. But yeah, the TV would be cool for him. And if he could do a similar thing like Zach did and just had a bunch of bangers with people in and out of New Japan, 15-minute matches, and you rack up a lot of defenses for him, I think, that would be a great way to get him over and get him ready for the world title.
Well, going back to the points I made about AEW, like the times where those individual singles titles have meant the most was when certain guys have held the title and elevated it above its station, and you can point to certain title reigns of different, like, just naming one off the top of my head, Orange Cassidy's all Atlantic / international run that was very lengthy and full of all those title defenses, like that made that title like more valuable for that period of time while he held it, that sort of thing. So I think Zach sort of did something very similar at a very similar time frame with the TV title. So it just depends on what somebody makes of that belt. One thing I did want to bring up though, and I don't know if I'm pro or against it, but yesterday's main event was, it's the main event, but it's a TV title match, and you usually want a TV or a main event to be an allure or a draw to people to subscribe. But right after the show, they put it on, social media for free because, again, that's the gimmick with the TV title. And I think that's great. But I also don't know if making the TV title accessible and free on social media has worked out the way that they, I guess, hoped that it would in terms of like generating buzz and interest. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, like, if you're going to do a TV title match, should it ever be the main event? Because now you're just giving your main event away for free. And maybe it should only ever be not to say I don't want to see these guys main event or that they don't deserve to main event. They do. But maybe you should always have the TV title in the undercard, because otherwise, if it is the main event, you're giving away the top end of the card for free.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. That's an interesting point. And yeah, what's the ROI on them doing these free matches? Like, what are, also, we don't have the analytics. Like, I'd like to see, like, what are their views and or what are the conversions? Like, is this leading to more New Japan World subscribers? I haven't heard of any large spikes of subscriptions. So since this TV title,
I don't even have the internet site doesn't even work still. So who knows?
Oh man, yeah.
Something I just want to say, I should have mentioned this earlier in the show. We got a little message earlier this week. Basically, I'm an idiot. Last week, if you guys were listening, I was critical of New Japan naming Capital Collision Capital with an A instead of an O. Turns out I'm just an idiot. Capital with an O refers to a Capitol building in a state, but Capital with an A, while it can refer to, monetary like funds, like I brought up, it also can just be the capital of a city or a state. And that was pointed out to us. We got a little message about that. So I'm like, fuck, I'm an idiot.
I don't know. I mean, I think the capital of O could have worked with it being in Washington, D.C. and how famous that Capitol building is. I mean, I think that still could have worked.
Yeah, it could have, but it's also on me if I'm going to criticize the company for misusing and misspelling a word. I should probably take more than 2 seconds to Google it before I say something about it. But yeah. Oh man. Anyways, I guess we'll just jump into night 3 real quick.
Yep. So night 3 also from Korakuen Hall today, Monday, September 9th. Had the pre-show Go-Go Loser Ranger match with Ryusuke Taguchi and Yuji Nagata. They were accompanied by the Red Keeper, and they defeated Fighter N and Fighter Y, who were accompanied by Combatant D and Combatant F. Apparently, Combatant F was El Desperado. So, just a fun little pre-show match to, I guess, promote this anime, Go-Go Loser Ranger. I guess there's some kind of partnership there, so it's a fun little opener.
And much in the same way I didn't want to watch those Tiger Mask W matches from back in the day, I didn't watch this shit either.
Well, at least Tiger Mask W was Kota Ibushi.
Yeah, but he was... Yeah, and the match he had with Okada was awesome at the anniversary show, but all those other pre-show matches he had were shit.
Well, and then wasn't there one against ACH when he's like Tiger the Dark? That was pretty good.
I didn't like that. Yeah. He had a match with Juice Robinson too. It was whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like this non-kayfabe shit. I only want the real wrestling.
Well, the real wrestling started at the start of the...
Bringing in all this fucking Nintendo shit,
So the main show started off, we had Jacob Austin Young defeating Sho Makato in 4 minutes, 58 seconds. So JAY's singles debut here in Korakuen in New Japan and got the big win here over Sho Makato. And again, just kind of showing off more what he can do. Very smooth in the ring. Does a slice spread for the finisher. Thought he looked good. Then we had TMDK, Fujita, and Sabre. They defeated Tenzan and Murashima, 7 minutes, 50 seconds. So I think it feels like it's the first time in a while we've seen Tenzan. Seems like the crowd popped pretty big for him when he came out. But yeah, TMDK again the win here over these guys. And then we had Ren Narita and Sho once again defeating Jado and Umino. So again, it's same tag match all throughout the weekend. And
they jumped him out in the stands though.
Yeah. So on the way down, they jumped him during, Umino's crowd entrance. And yeah, once again, just laid these boys out, pinned them. And yeah.
One thing about Zach, he's been tapping everybody out in unique and interesting and inventive ways almost every single night prior to this tour, but then also on this tour. And I don't know, man, it's making me nervous about his chances.
You think he's going to lose?
I don't know. With Zach, just because it is Zach and they've never gone with him. I mean, I was nervous before he even won the G1, and now that he's won the G1, I'm in disbelief that they're going to put the title on him until they actually do it. And I hope they do, but I'm nervous about it.
Yeah. Well, Fujita was the one who got the submission victory in this matchup here for Clarky Cat variation. So maybe that's a sign there that maybe Zach could win by having a Fujita be the one picking up wins here.
But he didn't pick up. I think Zach picked up the win the other two nights.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Then following that, we talked about Narita and Sho. So yeah, they got the win there, and also we talked about what's coming up with Ren Narita. Then following that, we had Mad Bastards once again defeating Hanma and Ishii. And again, another very fun, hard-hitting matchup here. Post-match, Ishii was just really trying to brawl these guys and was getting overwhelmed, and they fought him all the way to the back. So at some point, we're going to be getting Ishii in a singles match, maybe against both of these guys, because he built up heat with both of them.
Well, it seems like they're aiming for him and what's wrong with me? Gabe Kidd for the strong title, but him and Jake Lee in a singles encounter probably is on the horizon as well. And that's the thing. Like, if you want to create the impression that Jake Lee is good and can really go, you put him in there with Ishii, and that's going to create the illusion. Either that, or it's going to tell us everything we need to know about Jake Lee. Because if you can't get it done with Tomohiro Ishii, then that's just it. They can't get it done. So
yeah, Ishii's like, I've accepted the Jake Lee challenge. I'll do this. I'll get this man over 4 stars.
Also, on Friday night, I guess AEW, they did a backstage segment with Chris Jericho, and they left Ishii laying out like with a chair around his neck, right?
Yeah.
So that shit had to be pre-taped because he was already in Japan working on, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Yeah, that was taped on Wednesday. They had a double Dynamite collision taping.
Okay.
So yeah, Ishii officially written off AEW TV from the conglomeration. So back in Japan for the time being.
Yeah, Rich hit me up and he was like, bro, the conglomeration is just Hontai. And then I was like, what's the conglomeration?
Wow.
And he had to explain it to me, and I was like, oh, you know what? That's you're probably right. That is. That's Hontai.
So following that, we had House of Torture, Dick Togo, Evil, Yujiro, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru defeating Tanahashi, Yano, Bolton, and Tiger Mask yet again. And again, cut and paste the match from the previous night's shenanigans. Dick Togo choking out Tiger Mask with the wire here. Kanemaru tied Tiger Mask in the figure 4 and submitted Tiger Mask. So grab the belts once again. So House of Torture picking up a lot of momentum going into Saturday's title match. Then we had Doki and Taka defeating Gato and Taiji Ishimori here. So we had Taka putting on the just face lock on Gato to get the surprise submission victory here. So again, Taka's been working really hard in these matches. We got the Doki Taiji match coming up on Wednesday. Then after that, we had the United Empire team of Callum Newman, Francesco Akira, Great O'Connell, and Jeff Cobb defeating Bushi, Shingo, Naito, and Yota Tsuji. So it's a fine UE LIJ match there, building up Okan and Naito.
I thought that this one really worked for me on a lot of levels because you had like Callum Newman in there, and he had the history with Shingo and the match they had in the G1, and there were some callbacks to that match. And then, like we mentioned, Francesco Akira is always out there like working his ass off. But then, you know, there's the Naito and the Great Okan stuff, but also, you know, Jeff Cobb and Shingo, which oh, you know what? Actually, I'm sorry. No, that's something else. I meant Jeff Cobb and Tsuji from the night prior. So like, there's like a lot of like really small self-contained stories that were all kind of interconnected that played into the match. And, you know, at just over 11 minutes, I thought that they worked a really fast pace and everybody got their shit in. I thought this was a pretty good semi-main event tag match.
Yeah, lots of stories here building off of. And yeah, I feel like UE and LIJ have a really good chemistry. So yeah, it was a really fun matchup there.
Oh shit, bro. Kiana James has been pulled from WWE's active roster.
Sad.
I don't know who Kiana James is.
I hear the name. I think it's an NXT person, but I can't say that I've seen one of her matches.
Yeah, me either.
So the main event for the Never Openweight title, HENARE defeating Hiromu Takahashi in 25 minutes and 2 seconds.
Bro, this match greatly exceeded my expectations. I mean, I didn't have I thought it was going to be cool and I thought it was going to be good, and I'm usually pretty entertained whenever Hiromu wrestles a heavyweight, and he's had quite a few over the years, and they always deliver. But I think that this is the best heavyweight outing he has ever had with anybody, and this is up there as one of HENARE's best matches, and really kind of shined a light on what he's capable of doing at this iteration of his career. I'm a big sucker for big man, little man matches. And it doesn't even have to be a huge size disparity, but like, you know, for instance, like Vader Sting to me is a big man, little man match, even though like Sting's not little
right.
In the way that the match is laid out and worked. That's, you know, that's what it is. And, you know, that every company sort of has like a very classic big man, little man formula, a series of matches that works. I think of like Danielson, Morishima, or like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, or, you know, even like Walter versus Ilya Dragunov, shit like that. Like those matches rule. And that's exactly what this was. And, you know, we've been critical past couple of years of Hiromu, where like the work is still really good, but he seemed to be less motivated and kind of toned down the work because he can't do as many daredevil things. But there hasn't been a lot of like passion behind the work that he's doing. And in this match, having to try and overcome an obstacle in a weight class that's so much, you know, higher than him, he just laid it all out on the line. And like, this was the definition of fighting spirit. And HENARE, even though he's the bigger man, and even though like, you know, he's the champion, he's nowhere near the level of star that Hiromu is at this point in his career. He doesn't have the accolades and the acclaim that Hiromu does. And so like he had something to kind of prove himself in this match. And in the buildup, like he was putting on size and weight and like putting it on social media, how he was going to overpower and outsize Hiromu. And that became like the story of the match. And like seeing him just brutalize Hiromu Takahashi, and then Hiromu having to fucking muscle through it and fight from underneath and like go through all of that pain to like just get his licks in. This shit worked for me, bro. Like on a super high level. Like the Korakuen crowd was loving it.
Yeah, this was an awesome matchup here. Super delivered, really great stuff. And yeah, Hiromu kind of really forced to go to that again, to that heavyweight point. And he's already kind of altered his moveset to be more of a power junior, and so he had to put that to the test here. But he did a lot of lariats, a lot of hard hits, but then he also had to pull out a lot of the junior stuff too. So he did like the big shotgun drop kick off the apron to HENARE into the guardrails, then trying to use the speed advantage there to get the maneuver over on HENARE. But yeah, there's a lot of great back and forth, a lot of great near falls, and HENARE is being super intense and killing him with the big strikes, big knees, big kicks.
Yeah, down the stretch, they had so many near falls on one another where you just kept thinking that they had put one another away. And there were, bro, when Hiromu got that Hiromu roll on HENARE, I was like, oh shit, he fucking did it. Like, it's crazy. But I think the one, and I don't even know if I could call it a detriment, but the one negative, depending on how you look at things, was that I'm pretty sure this crowd really believed and thought that Hiromu was winning this match, and they were reacting as such. And then when he lost, for such a great match that this was, and how incredible the performance was from both guys, the crowd just went deflated. Like, as soon as Hiromu lost, the crowd just fucking like died.
Yeah.
And then the post match was, is a little baffling in terms of like the booking here.
Yeah, I think part of why they died, Naito was out on commentary, and the whole part of this match and build is Hiromu wants to win the NEVER title to face Naito. And so the fans, they want Hiromu versus Naito, and so they want Hiromu to win and build that match. And so, yeah, when he lost, I think that, they got deflated. Like, man, we're just never going to get Hiromu versus Naito.
They did the video package. They showed Hiromu as a young lion in the NEVER tournament, and how even back then he had like declared that if he ever won this title, he would defend it against Naito. And then, fast forward all these years, and we were supposed to get that match at the anniversary show right before COVID hit, and then it fucked up everything. And yeah, for them to like emphasize that, put it in the video package, put it in the build, have the guy sit at ringside. I don't know if you ever saw this. Did you ever see when Sugar Ray Leonard did like embarrassed Marvin Hagler in front of everybody?
No.
Okay. So, Sugar Ray Leonard, best fighter of the 80s, like top, he's basically like the Floyd Mayweather of his day, like the biggest money draw guy. And he had been retired for a while. And there was talks of him coming back to fight Marvelous Marvin Hagler, who was the most feared champion, who was a couple weight classes above him. But it was like always talked about like what would happen if these two guys fought, right? And the fight does end up happening in the late 80s, but prior to that, Sugar Ray Leonard had this like announcement, this like he was going to make this big announcement, and like everyone came out and they thought he was going to announce his like return to the ring. And he invited Marvin Hagler out, and everyone's in like tuxedos and all this shit. And like Marvin Hagler was at ringside, and he thinks like their camp's been talking. He thinks he's going to get the fucking fight, and to get a fight with like Sugar Ray Leonard back then, like that made your career. That was like a career high payday, especially for a guy like him. Like that basically would have been like the Pacquiao Mayweather of its time, like the biggest dream fight that you can do. And Sugar Ray Leonard gets up, gives a speech, and then he talks about Marvin Hagler's here tonight and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, and what if Sugar Ray Leonard were to fight Marvelous Marvin Hagler? What if we could make that fight? And everyone's freaking out. And he was like, unfortunately, that fight will never happen. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's what this was. It was like, what if Naito and Hiromu could fight one another in the Tokyo Dome in the main event for the NEVER title? And unfortunately, that fight is never going to happen.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. But yeah,
it's not. I mean, maybe they'll still get there somehow, but then for them to not give us the match, and again, like maybe we'll get there, but then to turn around and to go back to Shingo versus HENARE, which we've seen that match quite a few times now, and to go back to another chapter so soon, right after we just had those matches, it's not the most inspired booking.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that. Yeah, going back to Shingo, especially since 2 nights prior, Shingo had challenged Naito. And yeah, we've had the Hiromu Shingo series this year, and we did the whole draw at Dominion and HENARE winning the belts following that. And yeah, it kind of felt like maybe that should have been the end of the rivalry for this year. But to do another singles match, kind of makes me feel like, oh, maybe Shingo's going to win the belt. And that's how they get to Shingo Naito. Naito, like, he loses to Zack and then challenges Shingo for the Never title. Yeah,
and then Hiromu's just SOL.
Yeah.
I don't know. This whole thing is very perplexing to me. And there was a period of time on the show in the early days where they could have done anything like this at any point in time, and I would just let it fall off my back like water on a duck's back, because I'd be like, trust in Gedo. He's gonna get us there,
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays I'm like, fuck, I don't know, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should sit back and let it play out and, hey, let's give them some latitude. Let's see what this creative direction is going to be. But time and time again, we've been burned as an audience to where I'm like, should I just be critical right now and just say like, hey, this match was great, but you got us pretty excited for a match and now you're not delivering it. And unless unless the way you're getting there is more awesome than what this would have been, it feels needlessly convoluted.
Yeah. And then to follow up with Shingo challenging, which, yeah, I mean, Shingo and HENARE have great matches, but we've kind of been there, done that. Like, wasn't there nobody else that could have been new or fresh if you're going to move off from Hiromu to do something interesting for HENARE?
And it's funny because last week I was critical of certain matches during Capital Collision where like the match ends, you don't get any title challengers. But that was because those were specific instances where those matches felt and were built like one-offs and ended very conclusively to where you're like, okay, well, what's next? We've clearly, put an end to whatever's happening here with Leo Rush and with who was it? Momo?
Yeah, Momo Watanabe.
Momo Watanabe, like they're clearly not getting title shots again. They got beat pretty decisively. What's next for the champions? And then we didn't have an answer to that. So it felt open-ended in a way that wasn't satisfying.
Yeah.
Fast forward to this week, and you've got a non-finish that isn't going to be followed up on in the immediate future. Maybe it will down the line. We don't know, but we did get a title challenger, but it was a title challenger that kind of is undeserved at this point and feels like a weird diversion after we just had a really great TV title match. And the guy came close to maybe. That's another thing too. Like Jeff Cobb was the one who was on top at the end of the 15 minutes and was the dominant. I don't know that the whole booking, that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
And then here we are, and like Hiromu trying to step up, trying to obtain this goal, like gets beat, but in that defeat looked like maybe he could have possibly done it. And you're like, fuck, I gotta see this again. This is great. And then it's like, no, you're getting Shingo. And far be it for me to complain about getting Shingo. I mean, Shingo's Shingo, but you're like, well, what about the progression of Hiromu's story? Like, what's next for that?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, like, a lot of the key to good booking is you want the story that is captivating and interesting to be the one that gets furthered. And instead, we're getting, left wondering where we're going and kind of with a sense of dissatisfaction, time and time again with this company, and I don't know. It just feels weird.
Yeah, and again, like you mentioned, it's hard to say trust in Gato. And maybe, who knows? Yeah, maybe it will play out and it'll be fine, but who knows? But I mean, maybe they're doing a chase. Maybe it's like, all right, Hiromu has to really kind of do this chase to get the Never title or to get to something that's going to get him the Naito. And I mean, we still have a few more months before the Dome. There's lots of different ways you could potentially do a chase, but it felt like now, like today would have been a great moment just to have him win, beat HENARE, and then he's kind of locked in for the Dome, and you have him beat a few people going towards the Dome, and then Naito's right there for him.
Yeah, but one of the issues with New Japan and what often happens is someone loses, and then instead of catapulting them into some other interesting feud that is like a side quest until they circle back to where they were planning to go, they just end up in multi-man preview tags and undercard tags until they decide to like dust them off and pull them back out for whatever reason. Shota Umino is like a prime example of a guy that this has happened to time and time again over the past couple of years, where there needs to be some more focused narrative with these guys when if they're going to be in a chase and you've got future plans and they're going to come off of a loss. It's not just enough to have them look good or have a good match or make them look strong in defeat. You have to have something creatively beyond that. I mean, look at Chris Jericho. This is a guy that whether he wins or loses, he always knows what the fuck is going on with his character and where he's going to go next and how to get back over. And time and time again, it works for him. But other people, they lose a feud or whatever, and then they're just off in the neither world, and you're kind of wondering like, all right, so how are we getting to where we need to go? Like the clock is ticking. Wrestle Kingdom's sooner than we think it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, before you know it, it'll be January 4th, and so yeah, what are we doing? How are we getting there? Like, and then
it'll be January 6th, and you know what that means.
New Year's Dash?
No. So you need to ask Chris Jericho where his wife was.
Yikes.
Oh man.
So yeah, but this was an awesome matchup. The closing stretch was really good. A lot of great near falls. Hiromu doing the crucifix driver, HENARE hitting the berserker bomb, followed by the native knee. Then the Hiromu roll you mentioned. Then HENARE hitting the rampage for a great near fall, and Hiromu hitting the Hiromu Chan bomber, and then the time bomb for another great near fall. Then HENARE does the Streets of Rage to get the win. And then we talked about Shingo coming out and challenging. Another note, I mean, Naito did come, he left commentary and walked Hiromu to the back. So maybe, again, that's the kind of the seed that they planted there, that this is continuing maybe.
Another thing I want to say, I think that this was in terms of, kind of excluding like maybe say the dog kennel match or whatever. This might be the most hard hitting and violent match I saw in New Japan this year, because the clotheslines and the kicks and the chops that these guys were hitting each other with were so fucking hard. I mean, I think it really is a challenge to find a match this year where guys were hitting each other harder than these two guys were. And that's kind of the unfortunate thing, was that this work was so high level and the drama and the atmosphere of the match was so like palpable. Like it was just incredible. Like it really was. But the talking point is the creative direction of the booking afterwards. And that kind of sucks, because the match itself was so great. Like, I think it's a strong style fight of the year contender. I think it's probably going to be the match of the month. And, I was blown away by it. Like truly, like I don't know, 4 3/4. That's how much I like this match. But no one's going to be talking about that. They're going to be talking about like, oh, we're just going back to, to these guys. And it doesn't help HENARE either, because it'd be fine if he retained. I think that's fine, but for them to have regressed and gone back to a feud that he had already overcome, we're backsliding with him.
Yeah, and the fact that it is Shingo again so quickly, it makes me feel like, oh, Shingo's winning.
And then even if he, let's say he does or he doesn't, it makes you question why they had him beat Naito in the first place, or why they're allowing there to be a tease for a future title match between them, while meanwhile he's going to be wrapped up in the Never title again. We saw the same thing happen last year with the guy, where he was KOPW champion and then he was feuding with guys in Noah, and then he was challenging for the world title against Okada. And that was all happening simultaneously. And you can always just tell when a guy has when they have too many rods in the fire, or whatever that saying is, that it's not good. We've seen it with Gabe Kidd recently, where Gabe Kidd's like feuding with everybody under the sun, but he's losing a lot of those feuds because, you can't just be beating everybody all at the same time. Like that's a key indicator in the booking of New Japan that you're not going to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or if you are, you're only going to win. You're going to win like the lower level match. You're not going to win you're not going to lose a Never title shot and then turn around and win the world title. Like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it for the Road to Destruction shows that happened on this weekend and today. So I want to take us into what's coming this week.
Yeah. So we've got 2 upcoming Road to Destruction tours. Night 4 is Wednesday, September 11th from Sundai Sun Plaza. We have Daiki Nagai versus Masatori Yasuda opening us up with Young Lion action. Following that, Tiger Mask and Hanma take on Murashima and Kato. Third match of the night, Taka Michinoku versus Francesco Akira in singles action. Fourth match of the night, Jado and Umino versus House of Tortures, Narita and Kanemaru. The fifth match of the night, tag team action as Kosei Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr. of TMDK take on Just Five Guys, Sonata and Taichi. Sixth match of the night, Bebop tag team, along with Oleg Bolton and Tiger Mask, take on the House of Tortures, Dick Togo, Evil Show, and Yujiro. Seventh match of the night, Team of Chaos. I didn't know that was still a group. Hiroki Goto, Tomohiro Ishii, and Yoshihashi. They team up to take on the Bull Club War Dogs team of David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, and Jake Lee. Your semi-main event, LIJ, Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo, Naito, and Tsuji take on the United Empire's Calum Newman, Francesco Akira, Great Okan, Jacob Austin Young, and Jeff Cobb. So Francesco Akira is doing double duty on the night?
Yeah, I think he is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll double check it, but yeah, that's what was on Cage Match. Let's see if I can check the New Japan site.
He's teaming up along with Great Okan, Jacob Austin Young, and Jeff Cobb. 10-man tag action. And then your main event of the evening, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight titles on the line as the reigning champion Doki defends against former multiple-time champion Taiji Ishimori.
So yeah, so a lot of what we've seen thus far on the tour, kind of building to all that stuff. The Doki and Taiji Ishimori match should be pretty good. It's kind of one of the last big juniors for Doki to defeat. He's defeated Hiromu and some of the other top guys in the division.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to point out with the Jacob Austin Young thing is United Empire, like, they clearly do need some sort of like central leadership, but at the same time, the group is so stacked both in the heavyweight and junior divisions. It's going to be hard to figure out who even what the structure or of the hierarchy of these guys is going to be, and it's going to be hard for like Calum Newman and Jacob Austin Young in particular to kind of break out, being that they're coming in as the young guys, but they're already so advanced for their station. It's interesting.
Yeah. And so update on the card here. So it's actually going to be HENARE in that match, in that multi-man, not Akira.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. As far as the main event, I think Doki and Ishimori, I mean, I'm not super stoked about the match personally, but At the same time, just considering the caliber of those two guys, you have to imagine it's going to be probably very good. I can't recall too many Doki Ishimori matches in my mind that I even remember or that were notable, but they'll probably be good. And then it's the junior title. It could change hands literally very easily. Like Ishimori seems like he has a knack for being the guy like in the, second half of the year who picks that title up and takes it. So there's no guarantee Doki retains.
Yeah, I feel like dome season, the fall is always like a great time for Ishimori. He gets heat back up. Yeah, he wins the title where he's in contention. So yeah, I think you could easily do this and make Doki try to like rebuild and chase him going into the dome. But yeah, I think I would like to just see Doki retain. He's already beaten Desperado. He beat Hiromu. He beat. I think it would be great for him to go ahead and beat the third guy here, beat Ishimori, and you really just elevate Doki up to the next level.
I agree. I'm hoping Doki retains, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ishimori picks up the win here. And then on Saturday, the 5th, night 5, September 14th. I don't know how to pronounce this, but I'll do my best. Noboribetsu City General Gymnasium. We've got some surprise appearances here on the tour. MMA legend Kazushi Sakuraba makes his return to NJPW as he teams up with Chaos stablemate Toru Yano to take on Daiki Nagai and Masatori Yasuda. I think Sakuraba was in Chaos, was he not?
That sounds right.
Well, I know he teamed with I'm pretty sure he did. I could probably take a look there, but yeah, they're teaming together to take on the Young Lions, Daiki Nagai and Masatori Yasuda. Following that, there is a Noboribetsu 20-man Rambo match. So sort of unexpected 20-man battle royal in the middle of a just road 2 tour. Like that's sort of interesting there. So we'll see how that plays out. Maybe we'll get some surprises. We have the Chaos team of Goto, Ishii, and Yoshihashi, along with Hanma taking on the Bull Club team of the War Dogs, David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, Gatto, and Jake Lee. Following that, the semi-main event that's announced, the LIJ team of Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo, Naito, and Tsuji take on the United Empire team of Newman, Great Okan, Henare, Jacob Austin Young, and Jeff Cobb. And then in your main event, we have the Never Openweight 6-man tag team titles on the line as Hiroshi Tanahashi, Oleg Bolton, and Toru Yano defend their title against the House of Torture team of Dick Togo, Evil, and Yujiro Takahashi.
Yeah, short card here. I'm not sure if they're going to announce anything else for the show, but yeah, a lot of surprises there. Got a couple surprises in the news we'll talk about for that Rambo. But yeah, we're finally getting to the Never 6-man title match. I mean, House of Torture has been so dominant going into this thing. Makes me feel like Tanahashi, Bolton, and Yano are going to retain here.
I don't know. I mean, the fact that it's Yujiro and Dick Togo, that doesn't like inspire me to have a lot of confidence in that team,
Yeah. Double opinions there.
But yeah, I mean, I would be totally fine if they're gonna have a battle royal and all that stuff. I'm fine with them having a shorter card here if that's the way it's gonna be. And I'm trying to look up, like, did I imagine Kazushi Sakuraba being in Chaos? Like, I'm trying to look real quick on a cage match. Be tag teams and stable. Yep, member of Chaos. From 2009 till current. So they never changed it.
He's always been a part.
Yeah. He's also still currently a part of Sugiura Gun. So dual membership.
Nice.
Awesome. So, yep, that's what we have coming up. Just 2 shows before next week. Let's jump into the news. So on August 10th in Sendai, Yuya Uemura sustained an injury to his arm during his match with Yota Tsuji. Though he went on to win the match, Uemura was forced to withdraw from the G1 has not been active since medical evaluation of the injury returned the diagnosis of a torn tricep. So the injury will require 6 months to fully recover. So he is out for at minimum the next 6 months.
Yeah, really bummer there. So he's going to miss the Dome. Going to be gone for Tokyo Dome season, but hope for a speedy recovery for Uemura.
Saturday, September 14th is that aforementioned Road to Destruction show in Noburibetsu. And as part of that tour, a long-awaited tour in Hokkaido gets underway. The special card will see some special matches, including the Rambo match that we talked about. Yuma 24, a familiar face. Yuma's 24 is his age, I'm assuming.
No, that's his name. Yuma 24.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yuma 24, familiar face on the Hokkaido independent scene, and a Kaientai Dojo graduate will be debuting. Also, Takashi Isuka will return, making a one-night return. So, I guess his retirement was bullshit because he's back.
Yeah.
Also in the news, Jake Lee is officially signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Lee held a press conference on September 3rd to announce he is now a full-time member of the NJPW roster. And then finally, in MLW news, but it is New Japan adjacent, the semifinals of the MLW Opera Cup take place this coming Saturday, September the 14th. The final four competitors in the semifinals, you have Kenta versus TJP on one side of the bracket, and Bad Dude Tito versus Mystico on the other side of the bracket. And I'm wondering, is the finals going to take place in October in St. Pete? And are we going to that show?
I would like to go. Our hookup is he's always emailing me all the latest MLW news to share and keep up with. So, and he emailed me about the Atlanta show. If anybody in our team from Atlanta wanted to go, I think Rich is actually going to be out of Atlanta that weekend when they're doing the show. But yeah, we're still getting the press emails. So yeah, I'm down to go. I think it's October 4th, Slaughterhouse. Yeah, should be a fun show.
Well, Jeremy, go ahead and fill some time real quick because I got to go to the restroom. I'll be right back.
All right. Well, got to say a couple questions here, and then that will take us to recommended match of the week. So with Rambo and Slam Pig here, he says, with the news that the 5-star Grand Prix winner Micah will challenge for the red belt in Edion Arena this fall instead of at Dream Queendom, as is traditional. Does that make you look at CSJ challenging for the world title in Ryogoku as opposed to at the Dome any differently? Does this diffuse the idea that he isn't looked at as a legitimate Dome main eventer by the office, and that is why the pattern was broken this year? Interesting point out there. Maybe it's some company synergy here with trying to break away from tradition and doing something different. And I don't know. From what I understand, Micah is also someone where she's been kind of close to winning a lot of these tournaments and close to main event spots, but she's never really been the one they've full on pushed. And also you have some names leaving there. Julia's gone now, and there's been a lot of faction shakeup. And so is this just kind of a similar thing where, like, all right, we need to push somebody new. We're not confident to put them in the main event of Dream Queendom, and are they setting up a bigger matchup? Maybe, but usually Stardom booking doesn't really influence New Japan, so it might just be a coincidence, or again, another challenger that's just they're not ready for them to main event the big show and they have a bigger match plan for Dream Queendom.
Yeah, so just jumping into this, I didn't hear everything that you said, but I did see this question earlier from Rambo and Slam Pig. So I do think that potentially, I don't know, like you mentioned, New Japan and Stardom's bookings don't necessarily play a role into influencing one or the other. But I do think it's interesting that they have foregone the traditional title challenge schedule that they normally do tied to the G1 and the 5-star Grand Prix. And that might have something to do with a booking philosophy change or even a management mandate sort of thing. So there might be a little smoke to that fire, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, one thing we, when it comes to the Zach thing, and we've talked a bit about it, but, I think there's a few valid points that we haven't really addressed too much on the show. Number one, in the past, they have done the build from person wins the G1 in August. They don't get the title shot until January, and you have to fill all of that time between there. And traditionally over the past decade, they've done the briefcase and you have to defend the briefcase. And that worked for a while, but then it got to a point where no one was losing the briefcase. It became very formulaic. And then it was like, well, at some point they have to lose the briefcase. But the problem is if they lose the briefcase, it negates the validity of the G1 entirely. And thus that was the flaw with the booking in general. And then they did the double gold dash, and that kind of became the first misfire in the build to Wrestle Kingdom. And then it kind of continued on with pandemic era and everything they did with, Okada and Osprey and Shingo and that whole thing. And it sort of feels like after, 12 years of them doing the same thing, that formula has kind of run its course. Prior to that, the winner of the G1 didn't even necessarily always get a guaranteed title shot, or if and when they did, rarely. Sometimes it fell on the Tokyo Dome show on January 4th. Sometimes it fell earlier. We've played, both sides of the field when it comes to talking about the pros and the cons of doing the G1 mandated title shot before Wrestle Kingdom, or, always keeping it traditional and waiting until the Tokyo Dome. And I personally don't think there's anything wrong with them going this way. But I'm a little bit more interested to see what the long-term effects are. Like, is this a one and done sort of situation? And then we will revert back to what we've done in the past, similar to like the G1, how they had the couple of years of the different format. Now it seems to be going back to a more traditional template. Or are we kind of on the precipice of completely changing that formula because it's just run its course? And that might be something that people are not ready for, but might really be the reality of the situation.
Yeah, it might be time for a change and switch some things up and make it unpredictable. And as, kind of controversial as this call has been to not give Zach a domain event, I think it has opened up the door for a lot of intrigue. There's been a lot of speculation, a lot of conversation. I think it's kind of peak fan interest because people are like, oh, yeah, what is Zach doing? What's the plan? And like, we don't know what's happening. It's very hard to predict. Like, is Zach going to lose? Is Zach going to win? And then if he does win, where does that go from there? Who's going to face in the Dome? What's the actual main event going to be? I feel like there's so many possibilities and predictions that, it's not cut and dry. It's not like, oh, well, Zach won. He's going to the Dome. He's going to face Naito. That's end of story. It's like there's a lot more options and intrigue, which I think makes this season exciting.
You won't find me praising WWE too often, but I think that they really found a happy medium when it comes to the same similar strategy of build to their WrestleMania when it comes to Royal Rumble, because Royal Rumble typically, if I'm not mistaken, takes place towards the latter end of like January. And then usually you're looking at WrestleMania in early April, end of March. So you're looking at like a 2, max 2.5, but it's pretty much traditionally like it's like an 8 to 10 week build. And that's enough time for them to have a road to WrestleMania and build the whole thing between the Royal Rumble winner and the champion or what have you. But it's not rushed at the same time. With New Japan, the winner wins end of August or, midpoint of August, and then they don't get the title shot till the beginning of January. I mean, September, October, November, December, you're talking about like 4.5 months. That's a long time to build. Plus you've got that whole World Tag League tour where like they used to do the champion and the challenger being in the World Tag League, and them facing one another in a preview tag match was a big deal, and that they don't do that anymore. So you have that whole entire World Tag League where they're just at home resting and there's not much build going on. And then kind of have to shoehorn everything real quick into the Road to Tokyo Dome, 2 or 3 shows. It's not necessarily ideal. And I think the reason that New Japan was able to get away with this for so many years was because, generally speaking, they were in a strong enough position to where the challenger and the winner of the G1 was usually an established star or a skyrocketing star, like say Kenny Omega, for instance. And then you had a strong champion. And so just the match itself was on paper a huge deal, and people are willing to wait and all that, even if the build, let's be honest, 5 months is not that's too long. But if at the end of that, you're getting Okada Omega, or you're getting Tanahashi and Okada, or Naito and Okada, or whatever, it's worth it. And it's not hard to sell. But then when you're in a down period and you're talking about an aged Naito, and you're talking about an unproven commodity, relatively speaking, in Zack, how do we get there correctly? And it's challenging, especially with what I've brought up in the past on the show. And I think I'm early on this, and I don't think there's a lot of other pundits in the space that have figured out that like New Japan just they don't put unproven draws in the Tokyo Dome. So how do we get there? And in the future, how do we get there with all these Reiwa guys? And we don't have Kota Ibushi and Okada and Will Ospreay and Jay White and Tanahashi and all those guys to fall back on, who can work dome main events with them to get them ready. We don't have that anymore. So how is this all going to fit? How are we going to get there? How are we going to make money and do our Wrestle Kingdom card while still honoring G1 and everything? And I don't know, like part of me almost feels like G1 should maybe take place later in the year, but then you're getting rid of the summer tradition. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's hard because we saw it when it moved to the fall. It seemed like the buzz wasn't quite there when it was in the summer. It's a summer tradition, and such a rich history of the tournament in the summer, and it does great business for them during that time period. So it's kind of hard to move it from there. But then, like you said, 4 or 5 months build, unless it's a big Okada Omega Tanahashi style matchup. You're asking fans to wait a long time. So in this situation, if it was Sabre Naito, like it's a match we've seen multiple times on multiple stages for multiple titles, and it'd be a great dome main event. But are people wanting to wait 4 months for 4 or 5 months for that match to happen again in the Tokyo Dome?
I mean, in the past, like I said, I think a lot of people listening are going to be like, well, they did it in the past, so if it's not broke, why fix it? The problem is New Japan is to some extent broke. They've been raided of all their top talent by Western companies, and financially they're not in a position to have guys that can headline, so how do we get there? How do we make this formula work with the tools that we have in the shed? I am wondering if like the ideal outcome of this, because one thing that, just from a fan perspective, it did become very formulaic to be like, okay, this is the G1 winner. This is the champion. Rarely is the champion going to lose their title shot. The challenger is not going to lose their title opportunity. And so we're just going to wait until January to get there. And when you had a marquee match that made sense on paper to wait, it was fine. But even as cool as that was when it was the best of times, 12 years of that got a little long in the tooth and became so formulaic. I'm wondering if like the real answer is to just scrap the whole Tokyo Dome thing, and instead the challenger gets a title shot on a major show like we're doing right now, you know, and so you do a big show for the title challenge, you know, third quarter, fourth quarter of the year. And now you have the ability to build a new, fresh title match in the Tokyo Dome in January that's not contingent on the G1 at all.
Yeah. I think it's perfect too, because, you know, Okada was the first guy with the briefcase. And so now that Okada's gone, kind of changing that precedent and kind of thing that was kind of put forth by the current face of the time. He's gone. Let's change it up. Let's try something new and kind of get rid of that tradition and kind of go back to what they did previously, where it's like, yeah, it wasn't always guaranteed. It's like you can get the shot pretty much any time. Like you're the G1 winner. Like you're the best wrestler in the company that year, so you can get a shot anytime you want. And so, again, I think it adds more intrigue. It makes it up, like you mentioned. So after this match in October, you now have November, December, that 2 month, you know, that sweet spot you're talking about with WWE, that 2 month period now where you can start planting some seeds. You can build stuff off the Power Struggle tour, tease stuff during the World Tag League tour, and then do the go home on Road to Tokyo Dome, and could still have a heated matchup without having to have the additional 2 months and the briefcase challenges and the title matches and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, the benefit here with specifically this instance with Zack Sabre Jr., he's never headlined the Tokyo Dome, right? If they were to put the title on him ahead of time, that's going to be a greater boost and vote of confidence to endorse him to go into the Tokyo Dome as a headliner than if he were to just, you know, not have any title match leading into it, and then he goes in as a challenger. And I guess, you know, they could do him and Naito. They've done him and Naito already, you know, several times this year, or we're going to get it again. So I don't know.
Yeah. Moving on to the last question here from Special Guy, the Discord. Says of how well received Tomohiro Ishii's AEW run was during the G1. Who do y'all think could benefit the most from one of those next? I feel like Kota Umino's stock is at an all-time low right now after his G1 tournament. I feel like he could learn a lot from Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and Kyle O'Reilly. Plus, once the run is done, you could have him go nose to nose with what is this new pissed off Jon Moxley. What do y'all think about that?
You know, again, I have not recently been actively watching AEW. I did watch the pay-per-view this past Saturday night. I was so glad it was on a Saturday night because it went late. And I'm okay if it goes late to stay up late if I can sleep in on Sunday. But when it's the Sunday before work, that fucking sucks. But that was probably like show of the year, honestly.
Yeah, so incredible.
Yeah, the show was great. And there were some, you know, I don't know, they broke a bunch of people's brains because of the violence. It's like wrestling is inherently violent. I don't know if you guys know that or not. It is simulated fighting. But you know, some of the things that they did on that show, some of the angles and stories, progressions might entice me to watch again on Wednesday night. We'll see. That's something that, you know, for better or for worse, WCW was really good back in the day for like the way Nitro would end and go off the air. You'd be like, what the fuck happened? I got to see next week. They'd be like, find out what happened. They'd end their pay-per-views in chaos. And then you had to tune in on Monday to see what the fuck happened at the end of that pay-per-view. And I felt like there was a little bit of an element of that with some of the angles and matches and stories they did on that pay-per-view. But I digress. As far as like, you know, how interested am I to see New Japan guys go into this environment and interact? I don't know. Tomohiro Ishii, this is me speaking personally. Tomohiro Ishii is one of my absolute favorite wrestlers. And I had no interest in seeing him interact in these groups because it just feels like a side quest that's not really enticing to me. I liked that time where he had the chop battle match with Chris Jericho. Like that's up my alley, like the dream matches and shit. But him, like, I don't know, having quests with like Willow Nightingale and, doing funny team ups with the conglomerate. That shit's just not for me. At the same time, do I think that there could be a benefit to certain guys in New Japan going over there and having time spent, doing Western TV, doing Western style wrestling, learning as an excursion? We've talked about that on the show, and I think it's long overdue that they've had some young guys do that.
Yeah, I mean, all in for a young guy getting a quote-unquote excursion and kind of learning the Western style. I mean, obviously that was kind of what Ring of Honor was for back in the day, and we saw Hiromu and Sho and Yo and guys like that would come over in the middle of their excursion and do some ROH TV taping, some ROH pay-per-views. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely... Yeah, Jay White, yeah. So I think it's definitely a great option to have. I think, however, though, I think the Ishii thing really worked because it's Ishii, and he's already over. He's over in America, and the AEW audience loved him. And, there was a lot of team-ups, but there was also some great stuff. He had the great match of Hangman. He had the great match of Kyle Fletcher. There's a lot of other cool stuff he did on the run. And so, yeah, I thought it was a fun use of Ishii. I mean, I'm a little frustrated because he's out here having all these bangers when I'm like, they say he's hurt and broke down, but he's out here killing it every Wednesday and Saturday. And so, but yeah, I mean, the run was great. And if you want to mix in, like, I know Suzuki's not a full-on New Japan guy, but if you want to take
he's not at all anymore.
Right. If you want it, but somebody like that, an Ishii, Suzuki kind of level, Kojima, these older established guys where the crowd is going to love them, and you put them on TV, you put them in a little group, you do a little few months storyline, you write them off. I think that's very beneficial. I think for somebody like Umino might be a little bit better because of the Moxley connection, but I don't know how truly over he would be every week on AEW TV and kind of how that would go with him, especially now with Moxley being heel, and you think there would have to be some kind of immediate interaction with them. I mean, it'd be interesting, but I think it would definitely be a lot more storyline work and getting him over as Ishii, where Ishii's over. He does his simple kind of playbook, the headbutts and the chops, and like he's going to be over and he's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The guys that have come over from New Japan and been used with any level of regularity in AEW, they like check a few boxes. They're usually like veterans that are well known stateside and abroad. They have very defined, like outlandish character traits to where when you watch them on the screen, you know exactly who they are without even having to know who they are. And they all happen to be guys that were at the top of the card when Tony Khan was not promoting, but more so like a fan of the heyday of New Japan. Mm-hmm. So those guys, it's easy to just plug them in. It takes no effort whatsoever. You just bring them over, you put them in with your guys. I mean, that's what's worked with Shibata and Suzuki and Tanahashi, and the list goes on. You named some good names there too. Even Kota Ibushi is one of those guys. What's going to be harder is, again, we've talked about it. AEW has difficulty utilizing and booking non-English speaking foreign talent. And if you bring in an unknown commodity to AEW who's not over with the crowds and maybe is still developing their persona or their character, there's going to be a difficulty with creative, with utilization. I think that if it's like, say, a young lion, a guy who's like literally a young lion and is expected to just be the young lion character, that person might even have more of an advantage because they're easier to plug in. We know what their role is. They're going out there to be fiery and to job and to learn.
Yeah.
Versus you bring in like a Shota Umino, and maybe that's not the best example because like you mentioned, there's the Mox connection, but like, let's say, okay, here's a great one. You bring in Yuya Uemura, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the creative for Yuya Uemura? He doesn't have like a great defined character yet. Like he doesn't have a catchphrase. He doesn't have like a jump off the page, like persona and charisma in that same way that, like, say Tsuji might. How are they going to use him? What's the creative going to be? And unless he has some sort of advocate, somebody there in AEW who's going to like literally pitch to Tony how they should use him, Tony Khan's not going to know how to use that guy, and they're not going to give him screen time. And if they do, it's just going to be in throwaway tag matches. It's not going to work. So it's very difficult to imagine AEW like dedicating any real commitment to anybody that is going to benefit New Japan more than it's going to, benefit AEW. They're not going to, or if they do, it's going to be like on Collision or something like that.
Yeah. I have a hard time seeing them, kind of doing this full on plan for somebody that needs to be established versus somebody who's already established.
But the problem is, historically, in partnerships like this, that's one of the major benefits of having a major promotional partner abroad, is that you can send your young guys there to develop and learn on some level. But with the way that AEW is, which it's primarily just a TV program company, like they're not doing house shows and that sort of thing. It's hard to imagine how they're going to plug in a guy like a Uemura or a guy like Oiwa or a Fujita,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like Tsuji, I could kind of imagine it because Tsuji has that character that's sort of defined, and there's
the LIJ connection there for him, which LIJ is very over in America.
Any LIJ guy, like Hiromu goes over there, and Hiromu's the ticking time bomb. You know what the fuck he is without even knowing him. You know what I mean? But guys that don't have that, like, the only person I can think of that like went over there and like got over just based off the work, and they probably didn't expect it, was like Doki. Or like Doki went over and got fucking over in his match. And who was he wrestling? He was wrestling Darby.
Yeah, I think it was Darby on
or was
Rampage.
It
It's Jungle Boy. Yeah, Jungle Boy on Rampage. Yeah,
it was one of them, and there he got cheered over Jungle Boy when Jungle Boy was still like a beloved baby face. It was like they fucking love Doki. I don't get it, but whatever.
Because I think it was out there killing it. He did the the senton dive through a table off the top. Like he was wilding out.
I do think that there is, to me personally, like as a fan of New Japan, I do think that there needs to be at some point that commitment that you bring over a young guy that isn't necessarily going to even be of great value to AEW, but that it adds value to New Japan. And, best case scenario, they can give him a character. They can give him a story. They could be their version of Great Muta or their version of, Jushin Liger. We saw a very similar thing happen in Rev Pro when Okan went there and he became the Great Okarn. I think that that's the ideal. You take somebody from New Japan that is developing and you give them a new gimmick, a new character. That's what happened with Hiromu when he went to Mexico. And that's probably, it became Kamatachi. That's probably going to be the best case scenario for a potential excursion for like a young guy. But so far it just hasn't happened. And I don't think it's probably high on the priority list of AEW right now. I mean, we're waiting for the TV deal, and it sounds like it's probably coming in the next few weeks, but like that they're like focusing more on like their business metrics and not so much like having to like appease their partner,
Right. And yeah, right now TV is so important for them. They already have a bloated roster, and so you got to make every minute count. And so are they going to take a time slot to build up a Uemura or some young guy who needs it, or are they just going to work on their own guys and plug in somebody that's already established they don't have to build?
I think the C2 though is probably the best case scenario for a time where you could do something very similar to like what Takeshita did in the G1, because that's the easiest stories to tell in the world. You bring somebody over. Remember they were doing all those pre-tapes last year. So that person doesn't have to cut real promos. They can just do pre-tapes. You can add the subtitles to it and get invested in whoever that person's character is. And they already have issues in that company getting people to job. They're not going to have any problem getting a domestic Japanese wrestler to job over in America in the C2. That might be like a perfect opportunity to get somebody of worth into that tournament, have them fill out a spot, do some jobs, do their learning, a little bit of a learning excursion. Like that's what they should do.
Yeah. So a good question there. Last thing here, recommended match of the week. So last week you recommended for us to watch Ishii versus JJ Gale from the Rev Pro 12-year anniversary show.
Okay. Before we do that, I just want to double check something from the Discord further about that. Okay, I see here. The question that we just had was the one that okay. Same. The reason why is because this user special guy that wasn't his name.
I think that's King of the North.
Okay, it's King of the. That's why like this whole thing threw me off. I'm like, I didn't want to forget his question, so I wanted to make sure that we covered it. But it's the one we've been talking about this whole time. So yeah, okay, cool.
People in Discord changing the gimmicks up, changing the name, changing the profile.
Bro, it throws me off. Like okay, like right now I'm looking on here, Doc Hard Shimizu, right? That's Dr. Larry at the Dark, right?
Yeah.
But a few weeks ago, his name was Gunther. And I was like, who is this Gunther guy? Like, why is he he likes our show? Like this new guy came into the Discord and he's a fan of us. And then but like, I saw he was rubbing people the wrong way. And I'm like, man, this Gunther guy, like, he's pretty ballsy out here just saying shit. And then I realized it's just Doc. And I'm like, oh, you changed your name. How am I supposed to know who the fuck you are? That's why, like, I like you and me because we're in there and our names are just our names. You know?
Yeah. No gimmicks.
There's no gimmicks. I put my name on that shit.
Put my name. No gimmicks. Put my picture. Like, it's me.
No gimmicks. The young boy Joshua Smith. That's my Christian name.
That's what it says on the birth paper. Man.
So yeah, let's recommend a match of the week. So I will tell you, I didn't watch Oiwa Kiyomiya. I'm sure you're going to tell me how awesome it was. So I will watch it this week. I don't need to do a review because I trust you are an accurate rater. So I do trust your opinion, but I did watch Ishii and JJ Gale earlier today. Did you watch that match as well?
Yeah, I watched both of them.
Okay. I was really impressed with Ishii and JJ Gale. I did think that there was a little bit of loosey-goosiness when it comes to the work of JJ Gale, like kind of a little shindy. But at the same time, I was really impressed with a lot of the things that he did. His athleticism, the way he emotes with his face, his physicality. He's very smooth. So, I mean, kind of reminds me of some of the guys from like Rev Pro in the past that like when they started there, you could see the potential. And then they went like international to the bigger companies. They like greatly improved. I feel like JJ Gale's kind of right up that same alley. Mm-hmm. And him and Ishii, they had a barn burner. And this match really reminded me in the early goings of like the prime of like the super indies, like 5 or 6 years ago. Like this match would not feel in any way out of place in say like PWG or something like that, or like Evolve during its heyday where like it's like boom, boom, boom. They're just going. The crowd's going crazy. And for a while there, I was like, this is pretty good, but I'm not like all the way, even though I'm like, this is highly entertaining. The work is great, very fast paced. There's not the gravity to the match that I was sort of expecting. But then down the tail stretch, like they started hitting the near falls, and I was like, okay, they're going to another level. I don't know if I can't get to that 4.5 area myself. Like I've seen a lot of people there. I'm like more like 4.25, but damn, this match was awesome. And JJ Gale started laying Ishii out with some major awesome power moves down the stretch where I was like, fuck, just let the kid win. Like, come on. But Ishii weathered the storm, got him up, brainbuster for the 1, 2, 3. Ishii's got to be like the most over Japanese guy in England now. Like,
yeah,
he's a top star there. But yeah, I thought this match was really awesome. And I think JJ Gale's got a similar trajectory to who's the other
Luke
guy
Jacobs.
that Ishii. Yeah, it's like Luke Jacobs, where like he's got to overcome Ishii, and hopefully in the future he'll be able to. One last thing I'll say before I kick it over to you. His Falcon Arrow is so precise and pretty and also like devastating, where I'm like, fuck, if somebody lands a Falcon Arrow the way that he lands the Falcon Arrow, it could be a finish. Other people, they do it kind of like a topsy-turvy,
like a scoop slam kind of thing.
Yeah, like a scoop slam sort of. He brings them straight up and then boom,
wow,
brings them straight down. I was like, holy shit, that should be his finish. That's incredible.
Yeah, dude, I loved this match. I thought it was so awesome, and I'm not super familiar with JJ Gale. Like, I heard his name. I can't say that I've seen any of his matches prior to this, but yeah, he was super impressive. The crowd was super hot. I know Ishii's usually over there, but I think it's like the first time they were actually like singing songs for Ishii. And like the beginning part of the match, like the crowd, like they're all about Ishii, and Ishii's dominant. He's dropping JJ Gale and kind of bullying him. And then the turning point, like JJ does like this spinning elbow and drops Ishii. And then the crowd kind of flips and they're like, JJ, like they're just chanting for JJ Gale, and you got split chants. And then, yeah, they're just doing just a great, just Ishii plug and play. Dude, he was killing Ishii with those German suplexes. He was doing these big, high angle, dropping Ishii right on the back of his neck and head.
That was the thing that when I was contemplating my rating, I might be close to 4.5. I don't know. I'm like, there were so many German suplexes down the stretch where I was like, man, this is one of the best like suplex matches I've seen in a while.
Yeah, and then Ishii was firing up, was so great. He hit it, just probably was like, ah.
Well, if you notice, he did the first. He got hit with the German, and he did the no sell and the spirit spot and all that. And then he ran at JJ Gale again. I think he hit him once, but then he got countered and he got hit with another German, and he tried to do it a second time.
Yeah.
And then he fell over and like bumbled. And I was like, that's the beauty of the spot. I'm getting sick of the one where the one person powers up, runs up, hits the other person, they power up, and then they both fall down. It's kind of contrived and like overdone. But I like the way that this one was, because like it's not both of them doing it. It's just Ishii, and you believe Ishii can like power through some shit. But then the second time he can't, and you're like, oh, it's taking a toll on him. Like, that's great.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, yeah, the Falcon Arrow was awesome, and then yeah, towards the end there was just so many great near falls until the end where Ishii had enough. He had to put this man away, dropped him, vertical drop, brainbuster, 1, 2, 3, incredible match, 4.5. Definitely, if people have not seen this match, highly recommend watch that. And like you mentioned, it all very similar to the whole Luke Jacobs series from last year, and you know, that's a full story coming out because Luke Jacobs is now the champion. He's going to be defending against Ishii coming up. So good stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely. Where were you ratings wise on this one?
4.5. Easy.
Okay.
Easy 4.5.
We had a tough time for excursion match of the year. There's been a lot of really good ones.
Yeah. No Will Ospreay though to worry about this year.
Yeah, but Zach.
Yeah. Then Oiwa and Kiyomiya. So I made the mistake of watching the Ishii match first, then watching Oiwa and Kiyomiya. And two completely different styles of matches. And I thought the Oiwa Kiyomiya match was good. It was the main event. It was N1. There's a story and history there, and it was wrestled kind of like your traditional Japanese style main event, kind of slow, feeling out beginning, a lot of chain grappling, technical wrestling. Oiwa was really working the headlock and arm drags, really kind of catching Kiyomiya with that, and then they kind of built into the bigger part of the match, and which it went to a 30-minute time limit draw, and the work was really good. Crowd reactions were good. But I don't think that this match, because I saw when this match happened, people were losing their minds. Like, this is an absolutely incredible match of the year. Like, Oiwa is the savior of New Japan. You got to watch this. And for me, it wasn't quite that level. Like, I felt like Oiwa, he looked good. He looked very good. And obviously, Kiyomiya is Kiyomiya. But after watching that match, I did not feel like, man, like, Oiwa needs to come back and win the title day one. Like, he's a made man, finished product. I did not feel that way. I thought it was a very good matchup, and they told a good story. I think Kiyomiya is super underrated, and a very credible wrestler. And so, yeah, I think the last match that they have coming up, I think is going to be probably a very good, and might end up being their best match. But yeah, this was a really good match. To me, it just didn't hit that match of the level contendership. I didn't come away from the match being like, man, yeah, Oiwa is a made man now. He can easily show up, at the next New Japan show and beat Naito. Like, I didn't feel that way at all. I still think there's a lot of stuff that Oiwa has to work on and develop. But he's very good, has a great look. He put on a lot of muscle. I love the mullet. And showed off some really great, crisp kind of technical wrestling, some basic stuff that you should have, and looked really good. But I just, like I said, just didn't feel like, man, this is the savior of New Japan. This was the best Noah match ever. No, it wasn't quite there for me.
This is unrelated, but Roosh just posted on Twitter, Roosh official, and it's a picture of him standing in front of a Fox Sports sign. Also, I'm seeing something here about I don't know, something about are they dropping the third hour of Raw?
I don't know. I haven't heard any updates about that.
This is from Twitter. It says WWE Raw will be on USA Network from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. starting on Monday, October 7th and through the rest of 2024, culminating with the finale on Monday, December 30th. So they're going to 2 hours.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I wonder if the Netflix spot's only going to be 2 hours.
It'd be so much better for them to just be a 2 hour show again. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Not that I watch, but like, fuck, I remember those 3 hour Raws were impossible.
Yeah. I remember like when I was a big WWE fan, like I was actually pretty excited. Like when the first 3 hour Raw.
Well, that's because it was a super show and it involved SmackDown.
Right. And then but when it was one day I made the announcement, like, oh, every week's going to be 3 hours. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And then it was not.
So I'll need to watch that match that you mentioned. I do trust your opinion. What do you feel like will be my take on the match? You feel like it's something that's up my alley, or you think it's something where I'm going to probably be in agreement with you?
I think you might like it a little bit more than me.
Okay.
Just because it's so technical. It's a lot of mat wrestling, a lot of kind of one-upmanship kind of hold kind of match.
Yeah, wasn't the match based around Oiwa getting him in a headlock most of the match?
Yeah, Oiwa kept working inside headlock. He would work the big arm drags, and really kind of catching him that way.
Well, we'll see. I'll have to watch it. I'll watch it probably tomorrow. Man, I'm in the middle of retail training at work. That's why I've been spacey on the episode today, and that's why we're starting late, because it's a crazy couple weeks for me. But yeah, good episode.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be it. Next week, we'll be back to review more from the road.
Oh, wait. Do we have an exclusive match for next week?
Yeah. Do you have a recommendation?
I was going to get one, but then I forgot.
I don't
Do you have one?
I don't have one ready.
Well, how about we can post it this week?
Yeah, hold on, let's see. Has there been anything else recent? Actually, you know what? I'll go with Ishii versus Kyle Fletcher from Collision a couple weeks ago. I heard that match was really great.
Oh, you didn't see it?
No, I didn't watch it. Collision's hard for me to watch. I don't watch every Collision. I'm always on Dynamite, but I don't watch Collision every week. So I saw the Hangman match. I did not see the Kyle Fletcher match. But I heard the Kyle Fletcher match was better than the Hangman match.
Fuck, I feel so put on the spot, and I don't have anything ready to go. I will think about it this week, and if there is one, I will get back to you on it. Because I fucked up.
It's all good. So that'll wrap the show up. Next week we'll be back to review more from The Road to Destruction. Remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On X, follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, John's Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we're at Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. Email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Simowitz. Imps WWE Adventure with The Implications, Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Sings. Tone Talk with Ali and Leah, and the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we'll catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.